The 3-year-old Saraswati from Bihar's Nalanda was adopted by a couple in Texas. She was found dead, and her father, Wesley Matthews, has been in police custody ever since. WION repeatedly raised questions on the adoption procedures and the safety of kids being taken away from India after they've been adopted. Now, just today, India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj says that she has requested the Minister for Women and Child Development to investigate the adoption process followed in Saraswati Sharon Matthews' case. Now, Sharon was adopted by Wesley and Cindy Matthews. 2 years ago, she was taken from Nalanda in Bihar to Texas, where she was living with her adoptive parents and their 4-year-old biological daughter. On the night of October 7th, Sharon went missing from the family's home when her adoptive father, Wesley Matthews, was taken into police custody. He said that he sent the child out of the home at 3 in the morning as punishment for not drinking her milk. Now, Sharon had already been diagnosed with developmental issues. She had limited verbal skills. There were coyotes that had been seen in the street near the Matthews home. Lots of questions were raised about the parents' behavior, about their decision to send the child out in the middle of the night in the garb of punishment. Ever since, there's been a big twist in the case. Mr. Matthews has now gone and said that he actually force-fed the child and saw her choked to death. Joining us this evening to talk more about the Minister of External Affairs' new request on overseas adoption is Utsav Bains. He's a Supreme Court lawyer and a child rights activist. He's joining in from New Delhi. Mr. Bains, thank you very much for joining us this evening and speaking with us here at WION. What do you make of this recommendation suggested by the Minister of External Affairs?
Well, I feel that it's a very good recommendation, but also what is important is that the elementary changes to the law that have been recommended by the Law Commission and CARA have not been implemented by the Parliament for far too long. Proper vetting procedures have not been put in place, and that is the reason you have such psychopaths getting the custody of our children. And I think of course there should be exemplary punishment to the perpetrators of such kind of horrible abuse. But at the same point of time, you need to really understand the importance of vetting in these procedures, and more emphasis should be laid to the importance of children in law. Yes.
Mr. Bains, also, millions of children in India are awaiting adoption. They are in NGOs' care, they're in adoption centers and orphanages across the country. Do you think sometimes the social workers who are trying to get these children into homes are doing so in a rush in the hope that they are homed quickly, and therefore some of the basics are ignored, especially when it comes to overseas adoptions?
No, the whole process of appointment of officials of CARA is so bureaucratic. There is no expertise, and also there is no sensitivity when it comes to children. So you'll of course find a resultant that leads to death and injustice as gory as this. So important is that the government should only employ individuals who have specialization in the fields of child rights. You can't give these important positions to a bureaucrat, because a bureaucrat is least interested in the welfare of children. There are individuals who are not only emotionally, who have done something in the field of child rights, but have also the expertise to understand what happens around the world in the field of child adoption. And it is a very, very complex subject. So the government needs to do more, in terms of employing the right people at the right places. And at the same point of time, when it comes to child abuse in the country, we have the highest number of street children in the world. We have the highest rate of child abuse in the country. And still you don't find the parliament and the parliamentarians having one session for these children.
Forgotten children, perhaps. I have time for one last question. When we were talking about the recommendations, the guidelines, a look at the website, the Indian website on adoption procedures, it says very categorically when it comes to overseas adoptions that the High Commissions of India are supposed to be involved throughout, from step 1 to the last step itself. Do you think that actually happens, or is it just on paper?
Well, I mean, I would not really comment on the procedure of the High Commission itself, because at certain levels I have seen that they have done a good job. But what is the fundamental principle in employing anyone in a institution like CARA, that is the fundamental body that looks after the adoption of children, is that you don't give it to a babu or a munshi. You have to give these sensitive positions to individuals who have done credible work in child rights. I mean, children are the most important gift to society and humanity. And trust me, I mean, as a person who's worked in this field, I think in the Indian society and in terms of the importance our parliament and our government gives to these children, it is the lowest in the country. It is absolutely shocking. And the way the politicians treat children as a non-important subject, because children can't vote for them. Just imagine that thousands of children go to sleep on the streets of Delhi without food. You find them at the lights, street lights, you find them everywhere. They are without food, they are hungry, but the government has nothing to offer them because they're absolutely no vote bank.